Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we continue with our study of Sefer Shoftim, the book of Judges, chapter 5. We began reading the Shirat Devorah, the Song of Deborah, which she sang upon the victory of the people of Israel over the armies of Sisera. And we read from verse 1 through 11, and today we're going to continue with verse 12. There were many themes and ideas that Deborah covered in the first part of her song. I'm just going to review one basic concept that we got from Deborah, that we read in the beginning of her song, and that was the idea that, number one, Deborah differentiated herself from the other kings, in that she gave full credit to the victory, full credit for the victory to God, to the people for strengthening themselves, dedicating themselves to God, and therefore having the courage to fight. That when the people did not have that dedication to God, they were weak, and they had lacked the morale to fight for themselves and protect themselves against their oppressors. But in reminding themselves of the covenant they made with God at Sinai, they therefore were able to strengthen themselves and fight and win this battle. She also recognized that previous leaders had not been able to arouse the people as she had, and once she was able to arouse in the people this hitnadvut, this dedication, they were able to fight and win. She also discussed to some degree how God intervened in the battle by having the waters of the Wadi Kishon, the Kishon River, overflow, so that the chariots of Sisera were of no use. And at this point in verse 12, Deborah says the following stirring words: Uri, Uri, Deborah, wake up, Deborah. Now that Deborah has given credit where credit is due to the people and their dedication and to their relationship with God, and of course to God himself, now it's Deborah says, wake up. Now it's your turn. Uri, Uri, Dabri Shir, wake up, Deborah, wake up. It is time for you to sing a song, to speak in song. Kum Barak. And then she turns to her second in command, to Barak. Kum Barak, you get up, Ushvei Shevyecha, and capture your captives, Ben Avinoam, you son of Avinoam. This idea, now it's time for me to sing to God. Barak, it's time for you to do your job as general and capture your captives. In verse 13, after we sing, only after we sing to God, Dabri Shir, when we sing to God, then, verse 13, Oz Yirad Sorid, then the remnant. Sorid is a reference to the suffering people of Israel who were suffering under the oppressive hand of Yavin. The remnant, Sorid could sometimes mean a refugee or what's left of the people after the oppression. Now that we sing to God, now you as the Sarid can Adirim now you can be Yored, you can rule over that powerful nation of Canaan that used to rule over you. Adonai Yiradli Bagiborim. Remember, it is God who has allowed me, Deborah speaking on the name of the people, over those powerful nations that used to rule over you. It is that relationship with God that allows you now to rule over them. So now Deborah turns to the tribes who helped in this battle. She's going to point out that some of the tribes helped, lent their hand, and participated on behalf of their brethren, and others sat on the sidelines and did not help. So she begins with the people of Ephraim, who were integral to this battle. Mini Ephraim, it is from you, Ephraim, Sharsham Ba'amalek, whose roots are in Amalek. What does this mean? In general, most of I'm going to go with the way the Radak explains this pasuk, but it's very similar to what the other classic commentaries explain, and that is that from you, Ephraim, this battle started. Your roots are with your old battles that we used to have against Amalek. That's referring to Joshua, who was from the tribe of Ephraim, who led the people in their battles against Amalek, as we read in the last book of Judges. So just like your roots of fighting for the people go all the way back to then, and now you stepped up to the plate again and led the way. Acharecha, and after you, the Binyamin ba'amamecha, the people of Binyamin, those that are your relatives, your brethren, that are part of your nation, they followed after you and pulled their weight as well. Mini Machir. Also, it began with you, Machir. Machir is one of the sons of Menashe, that lived in the Aver HaYarden, on the other side of the Jordan. Yardu Mechokekim, from you, real leaders. She chooses the language again to refer to leadership, the language of Mechokek, which are generally a term used for legislators. But from you, Machir, came down your leadership, came down to lead the way and to fight this battle. Umi Zvulun, and from Zvulun, as we read earlier, Moshchim b'Shevet Sofer, you have been Moshech, you have held up, or with the staff of the Sofer. The Sofer often means a scribe, sometimes means a scholar. Here, it more likely means a Sofer, one who leads troops, one who leads a group. There's various ways to translate it, but over here in the context, it most likely means the third translation. The fact that she chooses to use these terms mechokekim and sofer is not ignored, of course, by the rabbis, who understand this to mean that the Torah leadership, the rabbinic leadership, the religious and spiritual leadership participated and led the way in this battle. And by her choice of terms, it would seem that Deborah is emphasizing this as well. Now verse 15, Visharai b'Yisachar im Deborah. And the Visorai, and the leaders of Yisachar also came along with Deborah. The leaders of the tribe of Yisachar, they were with Deborah. They were with Deborah when she came to lead this battle. The Yisachar and Yisachar, the tribe of Yisachar, Cain Barak, were similar to Barak. Be'emek shulach b'raglav. He sent his feet. In other words, he charged into the valley together with Barak. And now, I'm still in the middle of verse 15, but now she flips to a tribe that she singles out for their lack of participation. But biflagos Reuven, now this is a difficult thing to translate. Peleg, the root of the word plagot, Pei Lam and Gimel, means groups or separations. It gives the idea like cliques or clans or different groups. It does not connote a unity. It connotes different clans separating themselves into different groups, different. And so biflagot Reuven can be translated among the groups of Reuven, or it could also mean with Reuven's separation, or Reuven separating himself. Those are two translations that we find among the medieval commentaries. However, biflagot Reuven, regardless of which translation we use, it gives this sense of Reuven separating himself, of the tribe of Reuven not participating. And among them, Gidolim Chikike Lev, Gidolim, the great ones, Chikike Lev, were making decisions of the heart. The chakok could also mean cracks and breaks in the heart. So this phrase could mean Gidolim, great people, had broken hearts over the separation of Reuven, which is how the Malbim reads it. Another way to read it would be Gidolim Chikike Lev, that the great leaders of Reuven were thinking in their hearts, planning in their hearts, making decisions in their hearts regarding what to do. Should we join? Should we not join? The way Rashi describes those decisions, he describes it as the people of Reuven, the leadership of Reuven, were watching the battle to see. Let's see who wins, then we'll decide which side to be on, which is obviously not very supportive of their brethren. So then in verse 16, Deborah turns to the people of Reuven and rebuked them. Lama yashavta bein hamishpesayim. Remember, Ruvain was famous for taking the land on the opposite side of the Jordan River and somewhat separating themselves from the rest of the people because they had large flocks and they wanted of sheep and they wanted to have a lot of pasture land and there was more room there. So here Deborah turns to them, why did you sit amongst your flocks of sheep? Lishmoa shrikos adarim, to listen to your the sounds of the pipes or the sounds of your flocks. You're listening to your sheep's Babylon, and that's where you decided to stay, right? Why did you sit there? Why did you not participate in the battle like you should have? In the old days, the people of Reuven led the battle, but now this is how you behaved. And again, she uses a similar phrase which she ended the previous verse with a slight difference, which I'm going to point out. Liflagot Reuven, for the separations of Reuven, and there's two ways to translate this, either Reuven separating himself or amongst the separate groups of Reuven. Gidolim chikrei lev, there were great people searching their heart. Over here she chooses not chikikei but chikrei. She chooses to use a word that rhymes, that fits her poem, but it also is telling to switch the words between chikikei, a broken heart, and chikrei, a heart that sits and makes decisions. A heart that's not decisive in the time of battle is not the time to be sitting around and making and deciding. And now is the time for action. The time for deciding had passed, but Reuven decided instead to sit around and decide, which was not very helpful to their brethren. Verse 17, she continues her criticisms. Gilad be'ever hayarden shachen. Gilad, who by the way was part of the clan of Menashe, and it is pointed out by most of the commentaries that Gilad is the son of Machir, who lived on the opposite side of the Jordan. And Machir, remember, we just mentioned before, despite living on the other side of the Jordan, did participate in the battle, and Deborah complimented them for that. Gilad be'ever hayarden shachen. Gilad lived or remained on the other side of the Jordan. It sounds like she's criticizing them. In the context, she just criticized Reuven, who was on the other side of the Jordan, and now she's saying Gilad also stayed on the other side of the Jordan, which is the way Rashi reads this. But in other words, this is a continuation of the criticism. But the commentaries all jump on Rashi and say, how could this be if Gilad and Machir were the same group? So how could she compliment them for participating in the same time as she's criticizing them for not participating? So they explain that this is actually more of a continuation of the criticism of Reuven. Reuven, you stayed there, and don't give me the excuse that it's not your problem because you're on the other side of the river, because Gilad also lives on the other side of the river, and they came and participated, so why didn't you? And that's how they understand this phrase. Vidan, and the tribe of Dan, Lama Yagur Aniot. Why did you remain among the ships or by your ships? Asher Yashavul Chof Yamim. I'm sorry, Asher, that's the next one. Vidan, why did you remain among the ships? Now this is a phrase which is also difficult because Dan was it sounds like Dan lived by the sea and they just hung around their ships and didn't bother, but that's not really exactly where the portion of Dan was. So the commentaries understand this to mean that Dan took ships over the Jordan River to escape the violence rather than participate. So, and this is a criticism done. Why did you get into the ships and hang with them and run away from battle instead of join the battle? Asher, the tribe of Asher, who also did not participate. Yoshav l'chof yamim, you stayed at the beaches, at the seacoast. Mifratzov yishkon, and you just hung out by the bays. By the Mifratz is a place where there's a port or a bay where the ships come in. Asher, whose portion was by the sea, you just stayed there and did not participate. She continues to discuss the tribes, but now she turns to those that did participate again. Zivulun amche reif nafsho, but Zivulun, you are amche reif nafsho lamus. You you revealed your soul, literally. In other words, you put yourself out there, lamos, to die. right? And as you put yourself out at death's risk in order to save the people. The Naphtali al Merome Sada, you went out there on the heights of the field. You didn't hide back. You didn't hide in your porch. You didn't run across the Jordan. You didn't stay on the other side of the Jordan and hide and watch. But you were on Merome Sada. You went up into the open fields and went to battle. And she now turns to the enemies. Ba'u milchim nilchamu, and the kings, you came and you did wage war. Oz nilchamu malchei Canaan. Then the kings of Canaan came and waged battle. B'ta'anach al mei Megiddo, at Ta'anach and at the waters of Megiddo. Betza kesef lo lakachu, but you didn't win. You didn't win any bounty, you didn't win any kesef, you didn't win any silver, no spoils. Bin shamayim nilchamu, from the heavens they waged war against you. Hakochavim misilosam, the stars changed their paths. Nilchamu im Sisra, they waged war with Sisra, changed their paths, meaning those pathways that their stargazers and astrologers looked at to declare victory clearly left their paths. And what happened? And here's where Deborah again gives us away what happened, how God intervened. Nachal Kishon Girafam, the Wadi of Kishon washed them away. Here we see clearly that what had happened was the chariots were useless because the Kishon overflowed and caused everything to be muddy, and the chariots and the weapons were useless. Nachal Kidumim Nachal Kishon. The Wadi of Kishon became a raging, overflowing wadi. Tidrechi nafshi oz, may my soul go on, move on in strength, says Deborah. May my soul go on in strength. Oz halmu ikvesus, then the horses' heels became they started to pound into the mud when Nachal Kishon overflowed. Mi daharot abirav, as the horses tried to gallop on forward. In other words, instead of waging battle like they were supposed to, the horses started to gallop. I'm going to conclude with this next verse. Oru Meroz, may the people of the town of the city of Meroz, which was close to the battle, may they be cursed. Omar Malach Adonai, says the messenger of God. Remember, Deborah is speaking in the name of God as a prophetess. Oru Ororio Shva, may the residents of the town of Meroz be doubly cursed. Ki lo vo le'ezrat Adonai, because they didn't come to help in the battle of God. Le'ezrat Adonai bagiborim, to help in the battle of God, versus the powerful armies of Sisera. So this ends. With this, I'm going to end this portion of the song, and the next portion of the song is going to focus on Yael, on the other heroine of this story, the other woman who is the heroine, and her deeds. And so the song will change focus to the third segment of the song. So I'm going to stop here. This is the end of Judges 5b. Thank you so much for studying together this beautiful song of Deborah. Looking forward to studying the rest of the song together in our next podcast.